Hello and welcome. Tonight we are going to be talking College Coaches Corner. Tonight we're going to be talking some pro line. We're going to be talking some Penn State baseball. You know, Big Ten baseball, if you're watching the early action across college athletics, particularly during our Division I season of college baseball, the Big Ten is making some noise in baseball, and Penn State for the last few years under Coach Gambino. We're going to be talking with assistant baseball coach Jake Palamaki. Jake, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to talk with you guys and chop it up a little bit.
Well, the biggest part, I guess I want to get started with, we're dealing with 2 to 3 feet of snow up here, as you remember, as a former BC Eagle in the Northeast. It's college baseball season, and you guys have started now that we're going on, I believe, week 3. Talk a little bit about, the reemergence of not only the Big Ten as far as from a baseball perspective, but Penn State is really making some waves with regard to building that program really from the ground up.
Yeah, we're just trying to get it rolling in the right direction, stack a couple years together. Pat Kraft, our AD, has done an unbelievable job giving us the resources and whatever we need with Coach Gambino running it and doing a great job facilitating, getting money from all over, doing what he can on and off the field. It's just been it's kind of a perfect storm the last couple years, and we had to restart from the beginning and every year is different and you never know what you're going to come across. So it's been awesome.
In Happy Valley, I know they've had a lot of upgrades to your facilities, offering amenities now specifically for the baseball student athletes. Talk a little bit about, what as a program, how did you begin to find or discover the pro line ball with regard to not only hitting, but also maybe some of your defensive drills as well?
Yeah, I think I found out about it when I was with the Phillies. I coached with them in 2024. Obviously, you guys been around for a little bit, but felt like they were true and felt like the repeatability of pitch shape and it kind of could do what I want with my hitters. And so I kind of reached out to you guys again when I went over to Penn State. Felt like we could use something a little bit more accurate, kind of tick up the stuff a little bit. Wanted our guys to kind of see real stuff and real shapes of pitches that we could kind of mirror who we're about to see on the weekend, even a little bit overtraining, right? Trying to get the guys to compete a little bit more, not so many swings built in a cage, a little bit more adjustability, more hitterish tendencies. And I felt like your guys' balls were the answer to what we needed to do as far as metrics and trying to get those on track, man, and trying to mirror exactly what we're about to face week in and week out. And then defensively, just kind of being able to use them for catching drills, infield drills, one-hand drills, a little outfield, indoors in a bubble, in small spaces. Felt like we could get balls moving ways that you can't always get a real ball to move.
One of the topics that a lot of parents are just now really beginning to discover is from an offensive perspective, rather than just endless days inside a cage on a tee or front toss, side toss, etc. The need to face not only velocity but spin that gives you that real life kind of visual as a hitter. Talk about that. Now you're a former AAA ball player. You spent time in the minor leagues, and this is offensively while you were at BC. This is something that's important when you're beginning to really play at the higher levels beyond high school. It's really important to train, with and against velocity, but more importantly, spin. And that's really what the pro line ball does allow is consistency. So you're able to get those reps into specific quadrants of the strike zone.
No doubt. And then being able to replicate it over and over and over again without getting one that cuts, that dives, that knuckles, that carries, whatever it may be, being able to set it up in a spot where you can really isolate your work in many different ways. But like you said, if when you're in the cages day in, day out, you're over a course of a long off season in pro ball, you're not going to be able to face arms as much as you'd like, right? Not too many guys are building up early. You want to kind of see where you're at in about middle of December, early January. Guys aren't hot yet, so then we tick up a double machine, right? And then you get those balls in there and try to mirror what you're going to see when you kind of get rolling the spring training.
I'd love for you to let's kind of take a little bit of a deeper dive with regard to now. I know you've been there now for, I think this is your second year.
Yep.
Talking a little bit about from a recruiting perspective, when you're out looking specifically at the high school athlete, can you talk a little bit about, from a recruiting perspective, some of the it's skill sets that will separate them, physical, kind of build? What is catching your eye with regard to a potential Penn State student athlete for the baseball program?
Yeah, we're just trying to recruit athletes and put them all over the field. Guys that are dynamic, can do many things on a baseball field, can play shortstop, can play outfield, get on the mound. Left-handed hitters are at a premium right now. Not too many of those around. So if you can throw right, hit left, you immediately become attractive to us. We try to recruit high school guys up the middle of the field, and then kind of spread them all over. And then if we need a corner guy, a corner bat, we find we can go in the portal or JUCO route kind of to get those guys. And obviously your arms, you want power arms that can be weekend starters for you. Or a lot of the times what we're trying to recruit out of high school, the guys that are long, grown into their body, but still able to make baseball moves. And then there's the guys that are just gamers, guys that do the little things right. Guys are the first guy on the bench to, greet your teammates, cheering on your guys, go get the bat for your guy, and be first one on the field, first one off. Guys that love baseball, guys that want to challenge each other, guys that love to be in the facility, or guys that become really attractive, and guys that we want in our building and getting our other guys better and continue to grind even when we're not there. We want rats that never want to leave the cage, guys that always want to be in the building, guys that love it more than they want to breathe. Like the obsession for the game has kind of fallen off a little bit just with the portal, and trying to get the makeup right with these kids is just as big as figuring out if they can play or not.
Yeah, I really want to expand on this point, because a lot of times, especially in today's world, there's a lot of misinformation. I think parents have it, they kind of take this ideology that the high school student's being stepped on, he's being overlooked. But in reality, I think what you just said, being an athlete, I think when we start talking about physicality, we forget the skill set and the athleticism that it really takes to play at the higher levels. And who you are in high school isn't really truly an indicator of what you might become, not only in college, but beyond, with regard to professional baseball. So I would love for you to talk about, from that versatility perspective, just because you're a shortstop, a middle infielder, doesn't mean you won't become a catcher, you won't become a center fielder. Talk a little bit about the need for especially the younger high school athletes to explore the versatility component, at the high school level, the summer level, maybe catch a few innings, maybe play the outfield a little bit. Talk a little bit about why that's so important with regard to recruiting.
Yeah, first thing I go to is the roster limit, right? You're now back down to 34 guys. You're not allowed to carry the 40, 45 guys you were able to do over COVID. You need guys to be able to do multiple things. And if you're a high school athlete, high school baseball player that wants to make an impact right away, you got to be able to do multiple different things, right? You may have a shortstop that just got there, and you can't come in as a shortstop only. You might need to be able to play second, play third, as you said, bounce into center field. If you catch a little bit, you always need a catcher, right? Guys go down. Being able to do many things makes it easy on us coaches. And when we can just kind of plug and play those guys, giving yourself as many chances as possible. We're trying to build our classes out of high school and then kind of fill the gaps with the portal. We're not trying to operate year to year with JUCO guys and portal guys. That's just year by year need based on who gets drafted. So we're really doing our best to try to make sure we get the high school guys makeup right, to get the culture right in the clubhouse. And like you said, the versatility, the athleticism of a young kid is what we're looking for. We're looking for the guy that can not only hit the ball, but also field the ball too, and do many, many different things. We're allowing guys to come in as two ways, and then they can figure it out when they get here, right? We're not going to tell you, no, you can't do that before you have another 2 years to develop in high school, right? Like there's many, many years that you can figure things out, and maybe we recruit you as an arm and you end up being a hitter for us, or vice versa. Like there's not a perfect storm to any of that stuff. But like you said, if you can be an athlete, if you can be dynamic and you can be versatile for us, we'll give you more chances than than the next guy.
And I think that's really something that parents need to be aware of. And I really want to hear your perspective on, think back to, your years in high school, 2011 through 2014, before you end up on a BC campus in Newton, Brookline. And you really want to kind of give those younger athletes, that class of 2028, 2029, and believe it or not, the 2030 guys, what can they be doing in order to truly prepare for that junior senior year, whether it's classroom, weight room, skill set development, so that they can take the lead in their development as opposed to waiting and being reactive? How can they be proactive with regard to their taking the helm of their development process early in their high school career?
Yeah, I mean, physicality is huge for us, right? You got to be able to be strong and dynamic and athletic, right? You got to be able to run. You can't be a slug. You got to be strong, but also quick and can move side to side and do whatever anybody needs you to do. But just playing multiple sports, we like guys that can play basketball, play football, play baseball, not just hone in on only baseball, right? And the guys that are able to do that, we find are most athletic guys, hockey players as well. But just getting in the weight room, not being scared to get hurt in the weight room, right? You're probably more risk to get hurt if you're not in the weight room, not strong enough
Right.
and doing that the right way, right? Your diet, making sure you're eating enough. None of our kids understand what eating enough actually is if you need to gain weight, right? Doing
Right.
it religiously, making yourself almost want to throw up at times because you're trying to put weight on. And guys don't understand the commitment that takes in the weight room and off the field. And with, you got 12-hour days when you get to college, it's hard to maintain your weight. We're up early lifting. We go to practice. You have late hitting groups. Next thing you know, you got to go to study hall and you haven't eaten in 7 hours. So prioritizing your time, understanding what the most important thing for you is that at that day and that time, and then kind of going from there and just not giving anybody any reason to cross you off the list, right? Doing as many activities as you can. And I truly believe if you love the game of baseball, there's not really burnout. Like if you're burning out in high school, you did something incredibly wrong.
Right. So true. Now, on that topic, I would love for you to talk a little bit about, and we'll bring in the pro line ball. The pro line ball allows for your hitters to develop a strike zone awareness. And I would love for you to discuss with the high school athlete, the high school parents, the understanding of the college strike zone, the swing and miss component as it pertains as you make that move from high school to college. Early in a career, there's going to be a little bit more swing and miss. And this is where training against velo, training against spin creates that understanding of, okay, this is where I have to be able to handle the different quadrants. Pitchers are going to attack my weaknesses. Can you talk a little bit about that as younger hitters begin to learn the strengths of not only themselves as a hitter, but what the pitchers are trying to do? Really, strike zone awareness is a key and pivotal role. It plays a pivotal role with regard to development as a hitter at the college level.
100%. We have kind of three phases we train our guys in: kind of skill acquisition, or slowing it down, figuring out a swing, getting them comfortable, figuring out what they need to feel. So we're tinkering, a little bit more mechanical. Then you have your skill development, where you try to go now put that skill into play with a little bit faster paced stuff and just see, okay, can we overtrain this a little bit? Can we get guys out of their comfort zone? Does this work against an arm? And then you have compete mode, where your swing decisions come into play. We want guys to just get up there, see velo, see ride, see run, see some sweep to the slider. But it's huge for us. We've been training our guys with swing decisions daily. We have to constantly remind our guys, all right, this guy's got carry at the top of the zone. We need to think 2 balls above that here, because otherwise we're going to constantly miss underneath. Now you have to see it and hit against it to understand what's 2 balls above the baseball, right? What does that mean for me? Is it steep? Is it flat above it? Is it scooping under a sinker? Like, you got to set your sights in a certain spot, and then, okay, where on the ball do I have to look? Where in the zone does this ball have to start for me to have a chance to hit this thing? I mean, it's good stuff day in and day out. You're not getting any breaks like you do in high school. You're not seeing the 60-mile-an-hour lefty, where you
Right.
can feel good and get your 3 hits off of, right? You're Friday guy, Saturday guy, Sunday guy. And if you're playing UCLA on a weekend, you don't get much of a break, right? You need to be prepared to see high velo, high run, high sink, high sweep, whatever, good spin in all facets of the game. So that's the biggest thing we use the pro lines for. And then guys not being worried about getting jammed and blown up in the cold weather has helped us as well. Guys getting their A swing off the pitch and not having any second guessing if that pitch is going to be where they think it is, right? And the whole deal. But swing decisions is probably the first or second most important thing we preach to our hitters.
And I think this is a topic that a lot of younger athletes don't hear enough about. And, we start thinking about Big Ten baseball. And Coach, you just brought up UCLA, you have USC, you have Oregon. I mean, you're going coast to coast. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that maturation process, about leaving high school and travel and going into college, 12-hour days. That's the norm.
Mhm.
That's 10 months minimum of a year if we throw in summer baseball,
Yep.
whether that be the Cape or New England Collegiate League or Northwoods. Talk a little bit about that dynamic as far as these younger athletes. They have a great high ceiling. They come in, they have great expectations. And then the reality of how hard and how long you have to work in order to get to that ceiling. It really begins to kick in when you're a freshman and you're a sophomore in college.
Definitely. We try to send our guys to summer leagues prior to coming into school. So we'll send our incoming freshman position players mostly to the Appy League, or we'll send them to the NECBL if we can get them in there. We'll send them to the Futures League, right? Just to get acclimated to playing against high level competition and getting away from home a little bit and understanding what that grind is. Hey, got to be on the bus at 10 a.m., got to have BP at 1, you play at 4. I mean, just the structure of the day and kind of getting your things in order is the biggest thing, right? And if you can come in physical, ready to go, and I've already kind of gotten through a summer, we feel like you're more prepared when the fall rolls around. But then you have your guys that are a little bit behind, but we have to develop them through our season, right? We have 2 kids right now that are on a full player development program. Not that they might not play this year, but their priority is get as good as you can throughout the season. Your batting practice is your game that day. You're getting 2 extra lifts in a week to be as physical as the guy next to you. And we find that that's most important for our younger guys right now who have lesser chances of impacting the game right away. But we feel like if we can do that right away with these guys, 2 years down the road, they're going to be big pieces for us.
I just want to end on a couple of notes. First, development. We hear that word so much, and sometimes I think we lean a little too much into the college realm. Oh, are you going to develop me? How are you going to develop me? And then you look at pro ball, and there's a lot of self accountability with regard to development. You have to take a big boy approach. How do you get your high school guys that are transitioning or your freshmen that come in? How do you get them to understand time management, time discipline, and how to be more proactive with regard to personal and skill development?
Yeah, we try to surround them with the right people, right? Try to get the
Right.
older guys around them that have gone through the same thing. But just stacking days, trying to keep it simple. All right, what's the one thing we're working on today? How are we going to be actionable at that? And are we going to create a good environment for those guys to get better? Right? It's not so much as us coaches reinventing the wheel and telling them stuff they haven't heard, but just stacking our days and understand, okay, what do you have to get better at today? That's your goal today. You need to be better at being on time for the fastball up in the zone. That's your goal. And then if we can attack that and be better on it next week, all right, we'll move on to something else. Now you need to be better with your hand placement right at the start of your swing. And then just trying to be simple, actionable, repeatable so that we're able to stack our days together. I don't think there's a secret formula, but just hard work and creating a good environment with the right people around those guys.
Last question, and I think this is really an important one, especially for Penn State. I have a lot of parents now, particularly from the West Coast, that are becoming very engaged and interested with regard to East Coast baseball. The conferences have kind of blended together. How do athletes get on your radar maybe in an unconventional way? Is it the email? Is it the DM? Is it the camps? How are they going to capture the attention of anybody on the Penn State staff?
Yeah, I mean, as cheesy as this is to say, I mean, we use Twitter a lot for our recruiting. I mean, we're constantly on that, evaluating players. Obviously, we're on the road a ton all year at all the big events, right? The future games down in Georgia, all the Worldwood Bats. So we'll find you, right? There's a lot of Penn State ties as well with our large alumni association. So we get leads on guys not always in state, but oh, this guy's grandma went to Penn State and he's a California kid, super interested, wants to come out east. So, okay, we'll go check that guy out. But yes, it's the emails, it's the coming to a camp, it's the DMing. Like we look at everything, right? You can't turn your eye down to whatever it may be. But I would just say staying on social media, and then playing throughout a summer. On the summer, if you're on the summer circuit, we're going to see you. We don't miss a whole lot on there. That's probably the biggest places we go.
Gambo is always all over the summer circuit. Always
Always.
has been, always will be.
Yep.
Jake, I want to say thank you so much. I know we're in the middle of the season. I know you're very, very busy, but we really, truly appreciate you taking the time to talk some Nittany Lion baseball. Best of luck the remainder of the season and within the Big Ten. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.